Spicer, Chair.
Here.
Vice Chair Michael Gore.
Here.
Peter Driscoll.
Present.
Mark Sprague.
Here.
And James Barr.
Here.
All right. So we've got first on the agenda is 649 Main Street subdivision. The planning board to review approved bond estimate to be posted for the remaining construction of the common driveway at 649 Main Street. Mr. Amigo seeks a building permit for the remaining lot. Do we have, okay.
Greg, my name is Greg Roy. I'm here on behalf of Mr. Amigo. I'm happy to take any questions. I wasn't to do a presentation unless you think I need to. I think the numbers went back and forth with Fred a few times, and I think we have them dialed in. But I'm happy to take any questions that the board may have.
Sure. I think, I know the bond estimate was submitted. I believe Fred Hamway reviewed it and submitted his comments. I believe you guys have already worked through any additional comments. So I guess I'd just open up to the board if you have any questions on what was right in front of us is the bond right now, the bond estimate. And Fred, are you on the call tonight right now? He may not be. Okay.
I saw him, but
He is. Let me unmute his
Oh, he
phone.
is.
He's trying
Okay.
to talk.
I was just going to ask Fred if you can hear me, if you had anything you wanted to add other than what I just noted. I don't think we can hear you if you are trying to talk.
Right now,
Oh,
Danielle?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Everything's all set. Like Greg says, we've gone back and forth a couple of times, and everything's fine there. I had sent it in an email yesterday saying it's acceptable.
Okay. Did the board have any questions?
So the EAD signs, that includes the posts and proper installation and everything?
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
If there's no,
So
go
this
ahead.
is the bond that they need to put up in order for us to release lot one or the final lot?
That is correct. Issue the final building permit, correct?
Okay. And this is subject to the 1.5x multiplier?
It would be. All of our bonds are subject to the 1.5 multiplier.
So I have that number at 39,262 and 50 cents. Someone verify that?
39,262.5, yes. Okay.
The applicant did send an email stating that he intends to post a cash bond if the board is wondering about that. So this will be a cash bond.
Okay.
So is the motion to approve the building permit upon the reception of the bond amount? Is that what the motion we're looking for is?
I think the motion that I'm looking for is just the approval of the final bond amount to be posted. The condition, the condition within the I don't know if it's the phosphorus special permit or if it's in the common driveway special permit, but that essentially indicates that once the bond's posted, I can issue the final building permit.
I will make a motion to approve the bond estimate of $26,175 for common driveway work at 649 Main Street.
Is there a second?
I will second. I'd like to amend it to say that amount is subject to the 1.5x multiplier for a total of 39,262.50. Just to be clear on the numbers.
Sure. And then Erica, do you want to take a roll call for those in favor?
Sure. Those in favor, Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
All right. Looks like it was passed unanimously.
Thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Great, thank you. So we have 5 minutes before the next item. Do you want to just review the meeting minutes?
Sure. Does the board want me to pull them up?
I have copies of them, but if others want to see them, that's fine. I think it was, so it's meeting minutes for October 14th and October 21st. Is that correct?
That is correct, but actually I'd like to amend that, include August 26th meeting minutes as well. We were holding off on those until I had received the niche field report, and we did get that. So I think those can be
Okay.
approved now as well, if the board would be inclined to do that.
Yeah, I think we were all set with those meeting minutes. We just wanted to attach the report. So I'm
Correct.
okay with that one. I don't think I had any comments on the 14th or the 21st, but did anyone else have comments?
The copy I got, the 21st, was listed as September 21st. So I think that just needs to
Ooh.
be amended to October 21st. In the email that was sent out on Friday, October 23rd, unless a newer.
Yeah, no, it does
Came
say,
out.
it says Wednesday, September 21st at the top. You're right. I missed that.
You are correct. Let me update it right now. Okay.
And it also says September 14th, if that was supposed to be October 14th.
Thank you. Let me just open that one as well. Oh, I think I must have caught that one at some point.
All right. Did anyone else have any additional comments? It looks like the two dates just need to be changed from September to October.
Okay, I'll move that we accept the minutes for the October 14th and October 21st, 2020 meetings as amended, with just correcting the date from September to October.
Second.
All those in favor?
All those in favor by roll call. Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
and Mark Sprague.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. And then what was the date of the August minutes?
October 26th. Let me double check. I think it's October 26th.
August 26th?
Yes, August 26th. August 26th.
All the months just kind of blur together here.
I know. I can pull them up again if the board wanted to look at them, since it's been a couple of months. It's up to you.
I'm okay with the meeting minutes. It was just the date that I couldn't remember. So
Okay.
unless anyone else wants to review the meeting minutes.
Erica, just
I don't know, I can't recall if I was present at that meeting or not. Just for the,
Uh,
no, there was one.
you were actually, Eric Nyland and Mark were absent.
Okay.
So this was the site visit at Keys Farm that we did.
Okay.
Oh, the site visit, okay, yeah. I didn't
Yeah,
go.
this was the site visit. That was a public meeting.
Okay, right, got that, okay.
All right, does anyone want to entertain a motion to accept the meeting minutes for the site visit on August 26th?
I'll make a motion to accept the meeting minutes from the site visit to Keys Farms on August 26th.
And just say with attached niches summary as well.
With niches attached and summary to them.
Second? Will anyone second?
I wasn't there, so I don't think I can.
Okay,
Either.
I believe James can, if he's present. He was at the meeting.
okay. Good. And then all those in favor?
All those in favor, Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Michael Gore,
Aye.
and James Barr.
Aye.
Well,
Peter and Mark, did you want me to include you and you could abstain? That's probably the more official way to do it.
That's fine, yeah.
I'll abstain.
Okay, so Mark Sprague
Abstain.
and Peter Driscoll.
Abstain.
All right, thank you.
All right, so we're 7:16. So Eric, if you can just scroll down and I can read the portion for Keys Farm. All right, Keys Farm, the planning board to receive an update on the construction of roads and progress made regarding improvements to slope at lots 4, 2, and 1, as well as driveway modifications to lot 4. And I believe, Bob, you are on? Or am I incorrect? Or Greg, are you?
I am here for that, but I guess I was expecting Bob to be here, but I haven't talked to him in a while either. So I can give you an update on the plan we prepared, but I can't really give you an update on the road up to, the status of construction on the road and things. I haven't been briefed on that from Bob, but.
Okay, yeah, if you want to, we received, so just so everyone's aware, we received an updated plan for erosion sediment controls for lots 4, 2, and 1, and that's what he's going to talk about in a minute. And this is kind of based off of the last hearing that we talked about to really kind of be able to stabilize that area a lot. So if you just want to kind of walk us through this plan, that would be great.
Sure. Thanks, Erica, for putting that on the screen. Just quick recap. 2 weeks ago, we prepared a preliminary plan, which and outlined to you what we were intending to do by way of improvements in this area, drainage and erosion control improvements. And we indicated that we would be doing a survey of the area and that we would be back to you with a plan and drainage calculations. So we completed the survey last week. I think it was last week, Monday or Tuesday, and we prepared the plan. I think it was shortly after. I think we submitted it to Erica and Nitch jointly for review, longer about Wednesday. And we really appreciate Nitch getting right on it and reviewing it for us. And there was a couple of comments relative to some erosion control that they wanted to see. So we added quite a few additional lines of erosion control along the slope, which you can kind of see as the lines on the plan. And to my knowledge, I think that satisfied. I don't want to speak for anybody, but I think that satisfied Nitch's concern. So I'll just go over where we landed with our analysis. So, and it's very similar to what we had proposed in the meeting last 2 weeks ago. Starting at the top, which is at the top of the page, so vertically at the top, but also at the top of the sheet, we're proposing a row of erosion control barrier at the top of the septic slope. And then we're proposing the crosshatch area, which is the actual breakout slope. Thank you, Erica. Is a enhanced slope stabilization program. As we indicated 2 weeks ago, we're intending to upgrade that erosion control barrier with a more semi-permanent barrier, which would be staked in place, and we provided some specifications and the detail for that also on the plan. At the bottom of that, we're proposing another line of erosion control barrier, which would be a straw wattle detail, which will protect the riprap swale. Thank you, Erica. Did a great job. As we indicated last time, we're proposing a riprap swale to capture the water from that area and direct it to a level spreader, which would be constructed in the right there. And we have analyzed the upstream tributary area to that, and I don't have that in front of me, but I think we suggested that we'd be trying to contain a 2-year storm. We actually were able to do quite a bit better than that. We've completely contained the 10-year storm, and in most cases, even up to the 25-year storm. So we think that this is going to significantly, all frequently occurring rain events, say 4 inches, 5-inch events. We've sized this to handle those type of events. More intense rain or more rainfall event, very infrequent or low probability rain events. The system would still just would function. It'll just be in an overflow condition. Moving down the slope, you'll see there's a couple more lines of erosion control barrier, again, just to try and knock down the velocity and protect the area. So the goal here is not only to introduce the level spreaders, but also to get vegetation to establish, which is key. So we've added those barriers that would function prior to vegetation establishing. The dot hatch that you can see on the steep slope is the location of the stump grindings on that steeper slope. You can kind of see that. Thank you. Just downhill from that, we're proposing a second swale and level spreader. So again, that would function the same way as the upper system that we're proposing. Would collect the runoff from the slope of gradient and discharge it to the level spreader, where it'll spread it out into the wooded area. So that's our goal, is to utilize the wooded area to knock down velocities and manage that. That one, of course, will also receive the gradient tributary area from the upstream level spreader. So I wanted to point out that is included in the analysis as well, so that we train these together to make sure that we were accommodating the runoff on the slope. And again, as you go down the slope, Niche asked us to add quite a bit more erosion barriers down in there. We've added those. I think that we may revisit those when we're on site. My sense is we may not need that many. I think that certainly maybe a few would be appropriate, but and I wanted to add them in. Our intention is to make sure that we have a good stable site there. We encourage the vegetation. We might find that we can eliminate one of those based on conditions, and I guess we propose to do that with a joint meeting with perhaps a representative of your board, but also with Niche present, and we can kind of talk that through in the field when things are being constructed. And then we've added a a swale, very downhill side, and that's on lot 1. Right along the woods line, we're trying to not be obtrusive into folks' lawns. Just to make sure, we did a detailed topo as I indicated, and it's flat in that area. So I want to make sure that we're not creating an issue down there, and that we're trying to improve the area all the way, improve the situation down the slope. So that swale will translate that water around the side of the septic system for lot 1, and in turn discharge it to the existing detention basin, which is just on the downhill side of the septic system on lot 1. So that, I think, is the summary that I was prepared to give. Again, we do appreciate Nitch getting right on this and reviewing it for us, which gave us an opportunity to get this buttoned up by this meeting. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Sure, I just had a couple questions. The first one I had was the revised stormwater calculations that you submitted. Was Nitch able to review those as well, and are they comfortable with them?
I got to tell you, I'm not sure. Are they on the call tonight?
They are. Danielle, I can answer that question
Okay,
because I
great.
spoke to Stephen Ventresca on the phone. He is not on the call tonight. They reviewed the drainage calculations, the watershed map, and the site plan, and they had, beyond adding the additional temporary erosion control measures, they had no other concerns.
Okay. Second question, with regard to the, let me just zoom in here. The proposed roll max, which is the slope reinforcing, at the top of the page from the septic system down. Can you just explain a little bit about the material? When you said semi-permanent, what is the intent of that once it's stabilized? Is there stuff that needs to kind of be brought up, or is it all like it can all decompose naturally?
I think it could decompose. Truthfully, I would have to take a look at the spec sheet, but I think this stuff is rated for 18 to 24 months. And that would be like a minimum, Danielle, is my recollection. So I know in practicality, you might see this like green mesh in it that you see that really helps to stabilize and lock in the roots. It will decompose over time, but it takes a couple of years to decompose. So
no, that's fine. I guess I was just asking, is the intent basically once it's installed to leave it in place?
It is, although not to say that, I've seen it on sites where, we've successfully now established a slope, and you have this green mesh that the landscapers are just, it gets sucked up by the mower, so they pull it out, sometimes. If you have the slope and you successfully stabilize it, you've tested it with some rain events and things, it's not to say you can't pull some of that up, but and ideally you won't even see it. Ideally it'll be matted in, but sometimes in practice some of those pieces just come up over time, particularly if you're mowing it aggressively, is what I find. But the permanent mat really helps to in conditions where you're having trouble stabilizing. It also helps with prevent scour where you have higher velocity type areas. You can actually use this to stabilize channels with a high, relatively high velocity in place of riprap if you wanted. So it's that type of product. So it's a more it's a higher quality,
more durable. Yeah.
Durable product, right?
That's fine. I think so, because one of the questions I saw just on some of the chat too was just, and I was wondering this as well. So the intent is to put this down, stabilize the slope, but the intent is not necessarily to pick this back up.
No.
Is that correct, or? Okay.
Yes, it would. It's intended to stay in place, and,
okay.
and it will biodegrade. It just takes a while.
Just takes a while. Okay. And then, sorry, I had one more question. If you can, Erica, scroll down to lot 1. So the bottom, can you just explain? All right, yeah, sorry, it's zoomed in now. All right, so the swale there is 339.21 to 338. All right, so it's going towards the back.
Correct.
towards the wooded area, then it would kind of come down and then go to the, okay, I see.
Correct.
I see.
It's kind of a natural swale that was made by the breakout grading for the septic. And we just, right along the woods line, we're proposing to put that and pick up any
Okay.
out of the woods. And
The only other thing I would also comment on, at least from my point, and then I can open up to the board. You mentioned you're showing a bunch of, like Mitch had asked for a bunch of these different straw wattles to kind of be shown. I guess in that you were thinking you may not install all of them. That gets a little tricky because we've got the plan in front of us now. If we were to approve this plan, we'd almost be asking you to install it per this plan. If we want some leeway, I would say as long as Mitch and Erica have reviewed it and, there's kind of a meeting of the minds there, I'm okay with, if it seems like it's not necessary. We just want to make sure Mitch is involved in that decision as well as Erica.
absolutely. I think we'd be asking you to come and take a look at a site-specific condition that we're seeing in the field and asking to,
Okay.
on a particular line, not just making the call. That would,
Yeah, and I think that could be open. I would say for now, if we end up approving this plan, we want it to be installed per this plan. But if something kind of came up in the field where it needed to be modified, it could be addressed then.
Sure. I understand that, yep.
I think that was the majority of my comments. Before we go to the chat with some of the residents' comments, are there specific questions from the board?
So Greg, a couple weeks ago when we talked about this, you're going to look at whether you need some wattle, on the uphill side of lot 4 septic or leach area. And I don't see that on there.
Yeah, I mean, in our view, it's pretty. Sorry, Mark.
I know Bob had mentioned it's kind of concave, so it's funneling water, into the middle, which is going to, kind of, reinforce the channeling there. So, is there anything being done to fix either of those issues?
So, in our view, it looks pretty stable there, Mark. I mean, I understand that it's coming down there and it's channel to the intent of trying to take care of the slope, the way, in the manner we're speaking. We'll probably have to add some loam in there. There's been some rivulets and things that have developed where there's some erosions, particularly right at the top of that slope. So we didn't see the need to put the erosion control upgrading of that area. We were really focused on trying to resolve the erosion, which to us appeared to be starting on that slope.
Okay.
When I mean starting, I mean that's the upper limit of it.
Yeah.
We did, though, we did take into account all of the water that's running down that hill, though. Our drainage calculations went up, included that tributary area all the way up, through lot 4 house and up even further uphill than that. So, so we did account for that when we were sizing the swales and bubble spreaders.
Okay.
Did anyone else on the board have specific questions before we go to the questions in the chat?
I think it's the only other question, Greg, is if Eric, if you can scroll up just a little bit. No, other direction. Sorry, scroll down. So coming down here, you have wattles at about every, looks like 5 feet or so of elevation. But then from, basically from 367-ish to 355, you don't have anything. Down across that whole, do you need something in there to help, kind of around the 360, 361 area to kind of, again, help kind of slow it down as it comes down that hillside.
Yeah. I mean, just to be clear, we didn't really think we needed as many as Niche asked us to put in. So we,
Better, I mean, we all want to get this solved, so a little bit of overkill here might.
yeah. So I mean, I see that, I guess to my initial comments, I see this as overkill. That area is wooded, so we're not proposing any alteration between the level spreaders. It's woods, it's stable. It's heavily vegetated in there. They asked us to put some protection down grade into the level spreader, and now we have 3 levels of protection. So if there's any silt that, first of all, we're trying to protect silt from into the swale and into the level spreader because we protected it up gradient. So if any silt gets over that into the swale and doesn't get captured by the riprap in the swale and gets over the level spreader, now we have 3 layers of erosion control barriers down gradient of it, and I just feel that's acceptable. By the time you get down there, and then you have another level spreader downhill of it. So it's we feel that it's pretty we feel that with those, particularly with the addition of the additional lines of erosion control that we're
That Niche had added.
that we're pretty protected there. But I appreciate the comment, Mark. I mean, we that was a design input. I mean, we set out to solve that issue. So my initial plan that I submitted, we had that as a design, a direct design objective. So, we certainly looked at it, and I think it's now only there's even more safeguards now after Niche's review.
Okay.
Anyone else on the board or any additional questions on the board? All right, I'm just going to read the comments on the chat before we open up to additional questions. I think, Greg, you've already answered the first comment with regard to the semi-permanent. But we have another comment. If water is supposed to end up at the level spreader, can you explain how that will work on lot 2 with the slope going uphill? So if we can focus on lot 2. I'm not sure if I'm fully understanding the
that's
question.
it. So that swale, sorry, I don't want to talk out of turn. Are you?
No, go right ahead. Go ahead, right ahead, Greg.
Sorry, I was muted there for a minute. So yeah, we started the swale at where you can see closest to the lot 2 house where it says 356. Yes, and then we ran it and we put that as far at the toe of the slope as we could, far uphill as we could, until it gets too excessively steep to create that swale. And then we followed the contour. So that is actually going downhill. We just follow the kind of shape.
Oh, I see the spot.
Right.
Yeah, you got spot shot. So it goes from 356 to 355.5 to 355 to 354.7. Okay, I see it now. So yeah, so
that's why it couldn't
that is
be
showing it going downhill.
That's why it couldn't go straight back into the woods, because there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there's like a 7-foot grade difference if we were to do that uphill. So we just can't make that happen.
Okay, I see that. Okay, so that explains that. Next one, how are you intending to? Okay.
This is Brianna Kiernan from Lot 2. Do you mind if I just ask
Yes.
a question about that?
Sure.
So just curious, I see the down slope from 355.5 to 355, then leading to the level spreader. So between 356 and 355, where is that water going? So will that when it hits the swale, is it running towards my house? Because if I'm standing in my backyard, it is a pretty significant uphill slope. So I just don't understand how water is going to even end up in that level spreader.
So the 356, once it hits that, that's kind of the high point of the swale. And then it's going to travel to the woods down to 350. It's going to hit 355.5 first and then kind of continue down. So
Yeah,
there's
and
going to
that's-
be a little bit of a
Okay, yeah, that's where I'm confused because it's very clearly uphill. So this just does not make sense to me. In standing in my backyard and looking at it, starting from the side of my house going to the woods is all uphill.
Right. No, I appreciate that. And that's one of the reasons why we needed to drop a survey crew there and make sure we got really good existing conditions, elevation data. So if you were to stand on your back deck and look straight, perpendicularly out the other direction, actually, towards the wood line, yeah, that way, and go straight back from the deck, you're exactly right. It goes uphill. And that's why that swale has to curve and is not a straight line. It has to curve sort of to the right as you go back towards the woods. It also has to curve to the right because we have to stay on that same contour line. So that's why we designed it in the configuration that we did, so that it will pick up water from the uphill area and will translate it down to the level spreader.
And so just as an added point on here, because this was surveyed and because it's located, I mean, it's clearly shown it's located appropriately on the design plan, but I'm assuming, Greg, when this is installed, you guys are going to have to kind of locate in the field for GPS or however you're.
I would think so.
Yeah, they're going to have to locate this per the plan. So once this is installed, they have this plan to kind of go by. We've got this plan to check it by to make sure it was installed correctly.
Okay. And just so you know, I did send a photo to Erica earlier today of our backyard and the uphill slope. I'm, as a homeowner, and having this be in my backyard, I mean, the size of this is pretty significant, and leading to the level spreader in the woods. So I just want to make sure that it's going to work, and that if in the case that it doesn't work, we're sort of left with this in our backyard. So I really want to make sure that the water's ending up where it needs to be.
I think if it's designed, if it's installed according to this plan, it should be. So I think that's the part where we'll need to make sure, and Mitch will be out there afterwards, once this is installed, to kind of verify that it's been installed kind of per the plan.
And Greg, these elevations that you showed, that's bottom of swale, correct? Because right here,
Top of the swale. So I think that's the top of the stone elevation, Erica. So then you'd be deeper, the stone would be deeper than that.
okay.
Yeah, I think you had 1.5 feet in the detail.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So the idea is you have that stone trench, and then the flow comes down the hill. You can't see what I'm doing, but I'm trying to, so much easier in person. Flow comes down the hill, enters into the top of the stone, goes down and then travels through the stone. So also slowing down the velocity, making its way to the level spreader where it spills over. We important to note here that we did not include any exfiltration in the calculations. We assumed, we took a conservative view on that and assumed that no water would exfiltrate after it gets down into that swale. No water would exfiltrate into the ground. Some of that will take place, but so that'll only just improve the situation, but we did not include that in the calculations just to make sure that we're conservative. So if that.
No, that's a good point.
Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, so it's not, when we talk about swale, it's not like your typical swale that you would see, like, the ground going like this. It's basically, the swale is within the crushed stone component. So it's like kind of a crushed stone trench that will capture the water. It will slow it down and allow the water to travel through the trench into the level spreader.
Right.
Okay. There's a comment, we need a riprap swale in place of the trench on lot 1. I'm not sure what that,
Yeah, so this
if we
is
can
Dave
go-
Coe. I own lot 1 and I appreciate your time. So I sent Erica a video. I've sent her a bunch of videos. We unfortunately are at the base of all of this, right? And so I dug my own trench out there and it's fully loaded today with this slight rain. Meaning fully loaded and then boiling over into my backyard, which has been essentially a swamp. And on this plan, I do not see a riprap swale to replace the trench that I dug. I don't know what this 339.21, what that represents there, but I'm not seeing. I was told. Go ahead.
So I was just going to answer on that portion of it. And Greg, correct me if I'm wrong, that is the same type of scenario that's up on lot 2. It's that crushed stone trench. So basically it's a swale that will allow water to get into the crushed stone trench and travel through the trench. So it's kind of going around this whole area. So as the water kind of eventually does kind of get down to this area, it will capture it into the trench and bring it towards the wooded area, if we're looking at towards the right side of the plan, before it then kind of goes down into the basin.
So that will be a riprap swale. Why is it not called out on the plan here?
I think the hatches, if you go over, there's a detail.
Good question. We could certainly do that. I apologize for that.
I don't know, yeah. Because it's hatched are the same.
Yeah. Okay, so that's great. So that we're happy with that. And I can just tell you, as we know, there's just a ton of water that we're dealing with out here.
Yeah.
No, I understand. And yeah, Greg, you can just add that note, but it is the same hatch, and it's hatched as the crushed stone, and they have the detail on the plan. So that's, I guess, where I was interpolating that. But if you want to just add a note, Greg, that's amended to add that note.
I apologize for that, sir. And I do appreciate you bringing that up. We will certainly, that is the intention. That is the design intention, as Danielle mentioned it, and we certainly will clarify that on the plan.
Very good.
And then last question was, how do we make sure it's done to plan? I think I just mentioned, so the town's review engineer niche will be out there to check all of this, that it's been installed per plan, and we will be getting a report from them, you know, kind of notifying if there are any discrepancies or anything that wasn't done to plan. So that's kind of how we would rely and deal with that. Oh, and then actually, great question is, when will this be completed? Greg, I know you cannot answer this. We really need Bob to answer this. And that was going to be my next question, was just timing. And I don't know, Bob hasn't joined, has he?
I don't believe so.
All right, so that's.
I don't have an answer on that for you. I apologize.
Yeah. So, and you know, just to the residents that are on, from our standpoint, you know, this is a stability issue. So we want to let Bob know that we are hoping that he can install this as soon as possible. I feel good with this plan, especially we appreciate, Greg, you guys being able to pull it together so quickly. Appreciate Niche being able to review it and give you comments. I think it's a drastic improvement to what's out there now, and will really help with the stabilization. So, I mean, I feel comfortable approving the plan. What I'm a little concerned about, though, is just understanding what Bob's time frame is for putting this in place. Erica, so what's our, I guess, since he's not on the call, what's our next recourse with him for this?
Actually, what I was going to do right now, I had muted myself. I was going to see if I could get him on the phone to see if he could join quickly to talk about construction schedule, if you don't mind.
Yeah,
if I can't get hold of him, then we can start talking about that. But let me try to call him really.
Sure.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
There's a house that all on the right-hand side of this whole swale. Is that gonna be impacted? Where's that house located? Is that on a completely different?
Yeah, great question. That was our initial concern with this. It was another reason why we wanted to survey it. The lay of the land in the woods does not funnel the water towards that property. So
Perfect.
it'll keep all the water on the property on our property. As a second layer of protection, though, Niche had us add a
I saw that.
barrier there, so just in case, but the contours clearly, sort of pitch away from that.
The other way. Okay. All right. Good.
Big question.
Yeah, once Erica gets back on, she can scooch the plan over, James, so you can see it. But I did see that. That was my concern 2 weeks ago, was to make sure the runoff went over towards that area. But yeah, thank you, Erica. So that dark dash line is an additional layer of straw waters along the property line,
Right.
which will help prevent any runoff towards that house as well, which I think is a good protective measure, just making sure nothing's going towards that.
Okay. All right. I was curious. Thank you.
I think we're just gonna wait and see if we can get Bob on the line.
I believe Bob's going to join us.
Oh, he's going to, great. See, he had Greg do all the hard work and then he's gonna come in at the end.
Hey, Bob.
Is he able to join on?
Yeah, he said he's gonna sign on right
Okay.
now. He just happened to forget.
Things that you couldn't do pre-COVID.
I know, when it's in person, a little bit different.
Yeah. The other thing you couldn't do a lot of times was attend like 2 or 3 meetings in different towns on the same night.
Oh, yeah.
That's a
I've
treat.
had multiple hearings on the same night.
Yeah.
So to just update the board on one other item related to Keys Farm, the Conservation Commission had also issued a cease and desist around the same time that the planning board did. And they lifted that cease and desist last week or early this week, but it has been lifted so they can begin road construction.
And for those, actually for the planning board as well, we had lifted the cease and desist from the planning board last week as well.
I'm surprised he is not on yet. I will resend him the agenda.
Yeah, if he wants, he can even just call in.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go ahead and make a motion to approve this plan, but I kind of was hoping to see if he had any comments with regard to us approving it, and I definitely want to hear about schedule.
Could we ask questions while we're waiting?
Yes, yeah. Are there any additional questions that anyone has?
We just, Larry Sidoni, 84 moderator. We would just like a timeline. I know you guys are doing this, so it's not like, but if the street, on the paving of the street, so we need a timeline, if at all, and an understanding of why the construction equipment at the end of the circle, which has been here all summer and not moved, you know, whether the street gets paved or not, that stuff, the pile of dirt and the 2 pieces of equipment should be removed. I mean, it's
Gotcha. Asking a question.
it's
about
beyond
those two.
belief. If those were sitting in front of Bolton Town Hall, you guys wouldn't be happy. So we're
Gotcha.
not.
All right.
That's everyone on the street. Trust me. It's a kind of a joke. So if you can help us with that, or maybe we have to
Yeah, we can ask Bob once he
have a
gets
Philadelphia.
on.
I mean, really, it's insane. It's acting like we don't live here.
All right. I think he's just joined now. Hi, Bob. Can you hear us? Oh, he was on. Oh,
I am so sorry, and I'm so inept when it comes to getting on these things. It takes me a long time to get on. I'm sorry.
that's okay. So the good news is Greg was on and he actually walked us all through the plans. We've kind of already gone over the proposed plan and the questions from the residents as well as the board. I think we feel comfortable with this plan. We are glad that Niche was able to review it and add their comments. So just wanted to let you know, we're actually willing to make a motion to approve this plan. I just wanted to make sure you were good with moving forward this plan as well before we kind of made that motion.
Yes.
Okay. Before we make that motion, I think the other important question we just wanted to ask was, obviously with this being stabilization and wanting to make sure the area gets stabilized as soon as possible, what's your time frame for installing all of this over here?
I would hope to have it done by the end of next week. Okay. But, depending on weather and so on and so forth, talking about snow and so on, I don't want to put a gun to my own head. I do that enough.
No, that's right. What we were, what I was hoping to do, and that hopefully this will still work, is if this can be at least installed and have time to Niche to go out there before our next hearing, which, I think our next hearing is in 2 weeks. Is that right? Is it November 11th?
That's correct.
Yeah, I think that's right. So if that's installed, I guess that's what kind of we were hoping the time frame to be installed, and so that way Niche can kind of give us a report before then, so we can kind of say, okay, this has been installed before November 11th, and we're kind of good to go. Does that seem reasonable to you?
Seems reasonable unless we get,
Weather
okay.
dependent.
Right.
We
Okay.
can certainly report back. In the middle of it. I
Yeah.
know that November 11th is a holiday.
I just realized that we have our planning board on Veterans Day.
We can talk about maybe moving that date then.
Yeah.
I get the idea. Okay, you want it done immediately, if not sooner, and we're going to work on it, as diligently as we can. Okay, so that's
And
our
then I
intent.
think
We want to get this done too.
Great. That's great to hear. The other, there was a question just from one of the residents about some of the equipment that was left at the end of the driveway and a pile of debris. Is that when is that potentially anticipated to be, I guess, moved off site or taken care of?
Are we talking about in the cul-de-sac? Okay, I think we
Yes.
that's the mysterious pile of fill. We didn't put it there. We don't know who did, and it's got to be removed. So, we're going to take care of it, but we did not put that there. There's remnants of a wall in there and other things. I just want the board to be aware of that. That's why it's not been taken care of. I thought that the culprit would be doing that.
This is not just from lot 4. That Rhino took that out of the show house, Logan and James, I forget which number it is. They dug that out of the conservation land and they dumped it up there. I've witnessed Rhino dumping that. They dug it out of the conservation area down off of that first, not the old 1700, the next house up. And they dumped at the end of the cul-de-sac months ago.
Well, it wasn't months ago because when we did our walk, it wasn't there. It's relatively recent.
Either way,
Okay.
that's fill is from whatever was dug out of the conservation area that what the town wasn't pleased with, and Rhino dumped it at the end of the cul-de-sac.
Okay, so
Okay,
irregardless, doesn't really matter. I said I'd take it out of there, but I'm telling you that, okay, I was under the impression and still am that we're not responsible for it, but I will, I'll take care of it.
okay. Does someone on the board, if we don't have any additional questions on this plan, is someone on the board willing to put forth a motion to approve? And actually, Erica, if you can scroll over to kind of the title. I guess it's drainage improvement lots 1 through 4, dated 10/22.
I'll make a motion to approve the drainage improvement plans for lots 1 through 4 at Keys Farms with, I believe we had a few changes to it, notations on it about the riprap swale. Were there any others?
To be called out.
Yeah.
I think that
So
was
with,
it, was just the riprap swale to be called out.
with those amendments.
Is there a second? Great. And if Erica, you want to do a roll call for all those in favor?
Roll call of the board. Chair Danielle Spicer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Gore.
Aye.
Peter Driscoll.
Aye.
Mark Sprague.
Aye.
And James Barr.
Aye.
Great, passed unanimously. All right, I think we're all set, and hopefully next meeting we'll have a report from Niche that all of this has been installed.
Again, I sincerely apologize.
No, that's okay.
This is Liz from Lot 4. I just have one quick question. So I thought I saw in the drawings, in the specifications specifically for that matting that they're going to put down, that there is Hydroseed that goes under it. I can't read this really here. Yeah, prepare soil and Hydroseed with Mulch and Tackifier. So clearly, hydroseeding right now is not going to be super effective. Is that something that we do in the spring, or will there be an alternative method of seeding the hill, I guess, before they put that erosion control down?
Yeah, I think we'll seed it now, and I mean, you're right, we're a little bit out past the season, but it should lay dormant. I mean, I'm not a landscape architect, but or a land, but it should lay dormant and then come up in the spring. But we want to get that seed down before we put the erosion control blanket down. That's the way we want it. So.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
No, appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, members of the board. We appreciate your time.
Thank you.
The paving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We didn't get an answer.
All right, so we're going to jump onto potential articles for.
Were there other pieces to?
Oh, sorry. Am I jumping ahead? Sorry.
I thought there was some, the driveway modification. And update on
lot
the road.
4.
Yeah.
Bob, did you actually just sign off, or are you still on?
He's gone.
I think you might have signed off. Oh dear.
It's like both Bob and Greg hightailed it out of here.
They both did.
Okay. Yeah.
He also never answered the question if he's moving the equipment or timing for that. That would be, or street paving, which is frustrating as the homeowners to not be able to get in contact with this man and get any information from him at any point.
So I know for paving, they're supposed to be doing, he's supposed to be doing the paving before November 15th. So at the exact time, I don't know what his schedule is, but it's supposed to be done before November 15th.
I think the issue is he hasn't started doing any work on the road, i.e. raising the manholes or the drain or anything like that. We literally have not seen a human on this road, part of Rhino or Bob's crew, in months. So yeah, other than dealing.
You normally wouldn't raise those structures until a couple of days before you pave.
Okay, so will he just show up one day and start raising them, and then that's how we know? Or is this something that he has to tell the town he's doing? I'm just asking so that we can understand. It's from just a logistics. perspective, it would be helpful to know.
Sure, he does not need to notify the town when he needs to do this. It's part of just his scheduling. And we just, I mean, we would need to know once it's being installed to have niche out there appropriately. Actually, I'll take that back.
Yeah, he needs to notify about
Yeah,
paving,
to make sure we have niche on site for when it's paving.
but not for raising the structures.
Right, right.
Yeah. So Eric, I know we just lost, maybe we can follow up and see if he can give us an update on the schedule for paving, as well as just the driveway modification to lot 4 for the next meeting.
That sounds good. What I'll do is I'll request a construction schedule tomorrow from Bob, stating that the board requested it at the meeting last night, after he had left the meeting. And I'll distribute that to the residents that are participating on this call tonight.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
So Erica, this is Liz again from lot 4. I'm assuming that you have not heard then from Bob about any driveway modifications to this point. The last conversation that I had with him was essentially he was going to talk to his engineer and they were going to determine like how far up to put the berm, and that was sort of the end of it. And I haven't heard anything, although he was very unwilling to work with us. As he has been the whole time. So I'm just curious if the town's heard any more, because it's been radio silent on our end.
I have not heard anything more from Bob than the last email exchange that we had. So I can follow up with Bob tomorrow about that as well. He didn't confirm with me. I had recommended that he have Ducharme and Dillis show the berm on a plan for niche engineering to review, but he didn't confirm that he would do that. So I will follow up with him
And I don't think, it sounds like he didn't, because Greg seemed to imply that he did not have an update for driveway modification lot 4.
Right.
All right, so yeah, if you can send those emails to Bob, and then we can follow up at the next hearing with him.
Will do.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Sorry about that little bit of a miscommunication, but we'll follow up at the next hearing on some of the stuff and keep going.
By the next hearing, all this stuff should be pretty much done if it's going to be done this year. So
that's the hope. That would be great.
So just one last question, again, not the last question. So if our road does not get paved this year, does that completely eliminate the possibility of our road becoming approved in the spring?
It does. Unfortunately, It needs to go through a winter.
Okay.
In order for it to go for road acceptance before town meeting.
Okay. So could Bob just like never pave our road then? Because like I feel like, when do we hold him accountable for like getting this stuff done? Because he's had like literally 5 months to do this and it hasn't gotten done, which is just very frustrating for us, obviously, as you guys can probably empathize with. Like, it's just crazy.
And you usually don't want to do the final coat until you've got most of the heavy equipment out of there. So, they usually try to wait until, later into the, until most things are done before they look at the final paving. So I'm not surprised that they didn't do it during the summer.
Understood, but the 2 houses that were left have had people living in them for like 3 months at this point now. They moved in August. So it's just frustrating because like there were many, many months to get this done and it's like keeps getting kicked to the curb. So my concern is that because he's been so evasive with things to begin with, like I know obviously you guys have bond money that you're holding from him, but beyond that, like you could just keep kicking this down. Or is there a tolerance that kind of?
Well, I think that unfortunately the tolerance is really the bond, and basically, if it looks like it is going to continue not, being done, then the town has the right to potentially pull it. But that's a whole nother process. One we hopefully don't have to go. So, we'd want to try to work with him as much as we can to see if we can get it done.
Okay. But if we do have to go through yet a second winter with this road, which I completely understand, because obviously you want to make sure that the road winterizes, but Bob is going to be responsible for plowing our road for 2 winters then at this point, if he does not pave the road in the next 2.
Right. What's protecting us is tax. I mean, I understand what you're saying. I understand everything, and I understand the heavy equipment. We don't need to be reminded of that, by the way. But Bob has, because everything's been delayed, as taxpayers, we're just being basically ignored in this situation. I can put up with this winter having to deal with Bob plowing, but that doesn't seem at all fair or justified that we have to put up with 2 winters. I understand Commonwealth's laws, but I don't, the town isn't protecting us at all. The 18 homes in this subdivision.
I mean, there are private roads in town where people do their own plowing. I don't believe it's the town's responsibility to protect a private development until it's completed and turned over to the town. And
So are
we have rules and a process for doing that.
So is your retort that we'll take care of, that we'll have to deal with is that your retort?
Yes.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
I mean, you basically have a private road until it's turned over to the town, and the town has certain rules
We
for
have a
accepting it.
private road because many things haven't been addressed, including by the town of Bolton. And we're now on October 28th. And if you didn't come out of this meeting thinking things wouldn't get done, I know most of us in the street did.
Danielle?
And most paving plants are going to shut down around November 15th, give or take.
Yeah.
No, and that's why we've stated all along that the paving needs to be done before November 15th. I'm
Right.
sorry, Erica, what were you going to say?
No, I just thought it might be helpful to add one comment to that in terms of perspective. This project was received its definitive subdivision approval from this board in 2018. We're now in 2020. It's only been 2 years. They've actually built an 18-lot subdivision fairly quickly. So when developers receive subdivision approval, there's a zoning freeze for up to 7 or 8 years. So, just to put it into perspective, this subdivision's actually been built relatively quickly. So.
Okay, well, swell, but I'm trying to understand how next winter a developer who would certainly be gone from this physical site for sure would care about the 18 residents, the road, and the plowing. And
I
I'm
think what
pretty
it is
sure, I
the
mean, other than
money
the
that we're
answer that said
holding
we
for
could,
them.
so then you guys would be responsible for the plowing since you're holding the money.
No,
Okay.
no, it's the developer, and if it's a safety issue, then, it becomes, I would assume that police in the town would step in and, force the issue with him. There's a lot in what you're saying that isn't quite, that right now you have a private road.
I understand. I'm actually understand a lot. I'm trying to be as brief as possible.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you think the town hasn't done that we should have done at this point.
Well, I actually think that every month I'm paying a large tax bill, and it's just not going for supporting schools in Bolton. It has to do with the infrastructure, and this street is the infrastructure, or which soon will be. As that other selectman
Yeah,
said,
it just has.
I was reminded that we're
You're right,
private, and he sarcastically told me we could just pay for it plowing himself. I didn't appreciate that at all. But that I know what we.
No,
can
I think just legally, the town doesn't take responsibility until it's, put over to, being a town road. So I think that's where the liability comes in. So until the town does the road acceptance, there's nothing we can do except for the developer to finish the road and put it, forth in front of town meeting to be accepted. So that's where we're trying to work, with Bob to try to make sure he can get that done.
No,
So-
didn't
so right
sound that
now the-
encouraging
right now
tonight. Since he barely even made the meeting, I'm just putting one and one together, and we've had these meetings and I've attended every one, and now we're literally almost at November 1st, and we heard the same, well, we're hoping with weather, we're hoping with snow. I know how to look at the next 2-week forecast. Anyone else could be doing that too, including Bob. And believe it or not, after it clears, the weather gets quite decent after about Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So just depends on the motivation to finish, or maybe there isn't any.
So, so a couple of things. So right now the road is private property, and the town cannot accept the liability of plowing on private property. That's just that would just just asking for trouble the whole way around. The other piece of it is that we have estimates of what the rest of the work will what it will cost, and we hold a 50% bump on top of that. So, if the estimate is that the final paving will be, 300,000, we're holding 450,000. So the developer has some incentive to finish that work and get that extra money back.
So the
Otherwise,
developer's incentive at this point has not really been an incentive to him, as we all have witnessed. I guess the bigger question
He
is,
didn't even make the
so
meeting tonight.
So we are
well, I mean,
technically a private way, but we are a public drive, correct? And
you
the
are not-
expectation in this cul-de-sac, and certainly with our tax base, would be that the town would then take over. Just as we get fire and police services, we would expect that we would have other services as well.
The town of Bolton police officers drive up here, maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 times a week. If there's an emergency, we could be left hung to dry. In my estimate.
Yeah.
Just one other comment, again, just in terms of perspective. I completely understand what the residents are saying. They're seeing this lapse of 4 or 5 months where maybe, road construction hasn't been progressed. But in fairness, within this year, we've still been issuing building permits and driveway applications for this development. So I don't think it's completely out of the realm if it had to go one more winter and then get completed, just in terms of, again, the subdivision process, construction process. So,
Not so sure.
and I'd also like to just remind the board too, if we were to get to a point where, construction really was stagnant and there was reason to pull the bond over a certain amount would require town meeting approval. So.
Yeah.
That's right. We do have that bylaw. Yeah. Anything over, I think it's 100. Yeah. So I think,
that's state law. So
there's nothing we can't circumvent that. Exactly right. That's state law. So there are, things in place that, we have to follow the law. We have to follow our regulations. So we do our best to regulate it and to get them motivated. But at the end of the day, Bob has to do the work. So.
Yeah. All right.
We just want to make sure. Sorry, we just want to make sure that Bob is actually being held accountable and that he's being followed, because clearly there's issues that we've come across and he has not been amenable from our perspective to helping us with them. And honestly, in my personal opinion, I really appreciate the advocation that the town has given to us. Honestly, honest to God, I appreciate it so much. I can't even tell you, because without you guys, we wouldn't be able to get these issues resolved. And that's really, really important. But on the back end, Bob keeps blaming his lapse in judgment on the town. And so I think that's not the reality of the situation, I don't think. But I just want to be clear that I think there's some discontent with people on our road, given that sort of, not opinion, but the perspective that people have on this road. So I'm going to tell you now, there's going to be a lot of frustrated members of this road if they find out that our road is not going to be approved in the spring. I don't care, whatever it is, what it is, we'll deal with it. But just be aware.
No, and
I'm sure.
that's it's absolutely understandable that it's going to be an upsetting thing for the residents, because we've hopefully been hearing from Bob that would be the anticipation. But let's try to. I'm sorry I cut Bob off and he dropped off, but Erica, let's see if at least we can get an email from him, get a construction schedule. Let's find out if he's still anticipating on getting this done before the 15th. And there still is a bit of a push here. He can get it done potentially. So let's see what we can hear from him from the next hearing.
I mean, I would also like just point out to the residents that the final paving is not the only thing that needs to be done for the town to consider accepting the road. You know, there's the final as-built plan. There's
the trees even, right?
There's trees. There's all of the other conditions that go along with the road have to be met. So
yeah,
just because he comes out and puts another layer of asphalt down doesn't mean that we're all good to go.
That's true.
And unfortunately, it is all in his court. But you know, it you know, so just don't hang everything on, you know, the paving crew showing up. So
yeah, understood.
Okay,
we're more hanging it on, hoping that whoever Bob hires, whether it be Rhino or whoever, if we have a harsh winter and there's a lot of snow, that we get a fair shake on plowing. And looking how the last 2 or 3 months have gone here, that's hard to swallow.
yeah.
All right. Well,
And you know,
we're just gonna have to take it.
You'll be pulling down a street that probably is plowed, and we'll be pulling up a street that isn't. And that's, you know, not what we hoped when we all bought on this street. I appreciate all your efforts and understand the how you have to follow Commonwealth laws and all that. But you can certainly, I know you guys understand our frustration, and this frustration could get quite worse, especially if snowstorms happen and we're calling the fire and police department, which is they have much better things to do with their time to listen to our calls if our street isn't plowed.
Yeah.
No, understandable.
And so the whole thing will become a bigger quagmire than it is today. In the last meeting, the last 30 minutes of the meeting was about paving and Bob talking about November 15th, and he exited this meeting and, in my opinion, seemed to avoid the issue. That's my opinion. But I'm sure many of the residents would agree with me. I mean, he got off and didn't even address it.
We're kind of going off on, we've spent about 20 minutes on the same topic. I know your concerns.
This is
we're
an
going to reach
important
out
topic.
to him. It is, and I'm not trying to minimize that at all, but in the essence of just trying to move on, let's try to get an email. Erica's going to send an email to Bob, try to get a construction schedule. Erica, if that information is actually like potentially he's going to be paving or doing stuff in the next 2 weeks before our hearing, you know, if we can share that with the residents of his intent, I think that would help them with kind of knowing what the construction schedule is. But please let him know we do expect him to give us an update before our next hearing on the construction schedule, whether he anticipates being able to plow. Oh, sorry, excuse me, being able to pave before November 15th.
Will do.
All right, my headset just died. All right, so we're gonna move on to articles for 2021. Thank you, everyone who called in for Keys Farm.
You're welcome to stay on, but
Yes, you absolutely can stay on to discuss articles if you would like. All right, so Erica, if you've got the summary, you had the Word document, I think you had emailed. Okay. So if Erica, if you want to just walk us through these and kind of what we were thinking. I know the first one is kind of my thought in what would be an appropriate town, bylaw to put up.
Sure. So I think the obvious ones on this list are 3 of the subdivisions that will be looking for road acceptance in the spring, hopefully. Century Mill Estates, Houghton Farm, and Keys Farm. And as this board knows, we've been doing a significant amount of site visits out there, looking at road conditions and trying to get things moved forward for road acceptance. So those are the big ones. And then the other items that are on this list, I think, stem from one of 2 things: either our draft housing production plan and or the work that we're doing on our master plan. So as Danielle mentioned, updating the accessory apartment bylaw, that's something that's recommended in the housing production plan. We do have residents that have interest in this, that have detached, accessory structures that they would like to use as apartments. So I think there's definitely a need for it. And I've started to do some research on that. We can certainly talk about it tonight, or we can push it to the next meeting, however the board wants to handle it. And then sort of relating to that, I added updating the barn bylaw to this. And again, this is mentioned in the housing production plan as well. Maybe the board should consider some revisions to that bylaw to continue to make that bylaw and, an incentive for people that have historical structures on their property to be used as accessory apartments. And then the last 2, the driveway bylaw update. This is just a carryover from Keys Farm. It might be advantageous for the board to take a look at our bylaw and to see if any further clarification needs to be added to the bylaw. I think there needs to be more discussion anyway, but between the board members based on the vote regarding the driveways at Keys Farm. That was somewhat of a split vote. So I think there just needs to be further discussion about that. And then the last one is possibly looking at our phosphid bylaw and considering updating it more in line with open space residential development bylaws. And that's something that's been recommended by Bob Romer from the Master Plan Steering Committee.
Sure. So I think for the first, I guess both for the accessory apartment bylaw and the updated barn bylaw, I think those are kind of both going to go hand in hand. I would say at this point, since we don't have a lot of information from other towns and kind of what they've done, I'd rather not dwell on it tonight. Erica, if you can start to, if you hopefully now get some time to start to pull together some examples from other towns and kind of what are the pieces we want, what are the pieces we don't want, and start to pull it together. We can review that a little bit more next meeting, because I don't want to go too far down this without having kind of some specific examples before we can look at that. Obviously, we'll have to do road acceptance things as when the information comes in. For the driveway bylaw, I was
Hey, Danielle, real quick, can you just give an update on Houghton Farm? We don't hear a whole lot about them. I mean, the trees were kind of the last.
Actually, yeah, I'm not sure. Erica, do you have what's the latest with that?
I actually need to call Peter Bradley, who's the builder on that project. The last time I was out there, they had they had done sort of the milling work that needed to be done with the binder course, and then they were scheduling a date for the top course. The last time I talked to Peter, they were supposedly doing it at the end of September, early October, but I need to follow up with him and talk to Niche. I haven't received any updated field reports from Niche Engineering about it. So at this point, I'm a little bit in the dark, and I will get you an update, a more recent update on that. But they are, the intention is for them to proceed with road acceptance at next town meeting.
And so they've paved, you believe they've paved, or they haven't paved yet?
Last time I talked to Peter, he had a date for paving, but I haven't circled back with him nor Niche Engineering to actually see if it was done. So okay. I will do that.
So if you didn't know, would Niche have known that he
They
actually
would.
thinking?
So, each subdivision is slightly different, although I may ask them to, CC me on emails or whatnot. Some builders tend to call niche versus email or whatever.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of their communication may be by, by phone call. So I may not always be looped in to
Okay.
what they're doing, but I certainly will get you an update.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Erica. The one thing I was just going to comment on the driveway bylaw, I think just given that, at the last meeting, I think there was kind of a split down with members with regard to that. What I would recommend is, I know Erica was mentioning that the DPW is in the process of hiring a new director. And what I'd like to recommend is maybe once that person is brought on board, before we even get into looking at revising a bylaw, is maybe us having a conversation with the new DPW person and kind of going over it, reading it with them, getting what their interpretation would be, what our interpretation would be, and how maybe best to move forward. If we're both on the same page from the beginning, maybe we don't need to do something, or maybe there's additional clarification that could be added. But I think that one I'd like to just push off until the new DPW director is kind of brought on, so we can do that concurrently with them. Does that seem reasonable from the board?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that sounds good. And I think that was my,
Just so
that
that
was
way-
my biggest
Yeah, 'cause I
concern
know you
about
were-
it, is not having, that perspective in the discussion.
Exactly. So that way we'll bring them in before we even start to revise things, so we can make sure we're doing it together. And then Eric, I know you mentioned with regard to the open space residential development bylaw, that's going to be a pretty big undertaking. So I think when I talked with Erica earlier, the thought is we can still discuss this and kind of start to look at it, but really the bylaw would be almost for 2022, because I don't think we're going to be able to get that ready for this for this town meeting at this point. So it's kind of, I think, other than the road acceptance ones, which, they are what they are, it's really this accessory apartment bylaw and the barn bylaw that I'd like to focus on those, unless the board members have other articles that they would like to bring up now.
No, I think that's good. Can you just do a quick summary? What is the open space residential bylaw? How is that different from Fosford?
They're actually, from the research that I've done recently, I think they're actually very similar. The OSRD bylaws, they're a little more, they just require more open space. Most of those bylaws are 50% or more open space.
Okay.
And then there's other things that go into it that make it like a little more environmentally friendly. You can look at density bonuses, maybe looking at different styles of housing. So there are some things in there that are sort of unique that we don't look at under the Fosford. So it might be amending the Fosford. It might be creating a whole new bylaw. We may want to also consider senior housing when we start to, really research this. So I think there's I agree with Danielle, there's a lot of research and planning that will need to go into that. So there are many facets that we can look at.
Okay, thanks.
Did Bob have any sample bylaws that he could provide on that?
I have already started to do that legwork. I spoke to the planner in Harvard yesterday. They've done a tremendous amount of work on their OSRD bylaw. It's still in draft format. I don't know if they anticipate bringing it to town meeting next year, but they actually hired a consultant that helped them put it together. They held a workshop last February. So they've done a ton of legwork on this. So I do have a copy of both their bylaw and regulation that they've put together. And so that's sort of my next step, if we plan to move forward with that, is really dissect what they've done and then expand upon that, looking at other towns. And then the state does have a model bylaw. I always like to go to the state and look at how they've drafted the bylaws. I think they're really helpful. They give a lot of good comments and ideas for, how you can make it work for your community. So that's kind of where I'm starting. And then, I'll figure out other communities that also have done it or are looking to do it.
Okay.
I know Bob was very impressed with, he had attended the workshop in Harvard and he was very impressed with what they were doing, the work that they were doing towards this bylaw. So.
Yeah, I think, he was impressed with the workshop that they did.
Yeah.
All right, so maybe at the next meeting, we'll have a little bit more information on the accessory bylaw and the barn bylaw, and we can kind of start to dissect those. And we'll kind of keep the other stuff just on here for, hopefully we've got 3 road acceptances we're looking at, fingers crossed, and moving forward. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to bring up with regard to potential articles? All right, does anyone want to?
I'm sorry. I don't know
Oh,
if
sorry.
I apologize. I don't know if this is time for me to speak up. This is my second time even attending a planning board meeting, so I didn't want to speak out of turn. My name is
Just
Mark.
introduce yourself first.
Sure. Mark Roddiquins, 95 Sugar Road. And I was wondering if there was any possibility, or even if there was anything in the past, so I don't have to repeat anything, about the topic of light pollution coming from residential houses, spotlights, the big yard lights that some places have. I know that in Stowe they have a bylaw, I think it's 3.8 in their town bylaws, that there's a certain amount of lumens, there's a way that, certain lights that can be used, the angles, so that it doesn't, travel light out into the road or causing problems there or into neighboring properties.
Good question. I know we have regulations with regard to, streetlights that are put in, they need to be cut off and everything like that. But do we have anything specific with regard to residential properties or that would address that?
Do not, no, we have no regulations in place for lights on private property like that. Obviously, under subdivision rules and regs for the street lights, we have requirements, and then certainly for commercial, but not for private residents. We don't.
Would there be a possibility of adding such some regulation that could be followed by the town?
We'd have to look into that. It certainly can be discussed a little bit more. We'd have to kind of delve into it a little bit, but we could consider that.
Thank
that
you.
would only apply to new construction, correct?
No, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, what you're getting at is there a bylaw that would be put in place for just residences? And if, no matter if it was new construction or existing, but if they were just to put up just this giant light that was streaming onto someone else's property, that would prohibit that. So I don't think it has anything to do with new construction or not, because I think our subdivision rules regs kind of cover the new construction. This is more of, if I'm understanding you, Mark, of what you're saying is, this is more of just to say, in a scenario where someone were to put up a big spotlight and it's shining onto an adjacent property, there should be some sort of limitation with regard to the amount of light pollution that could spill over. Is that where you're getting?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. I don't want to make light of it in any way, but there are certain areas. Sorry, I don't mean to ruin anybody's night, but there are.
We take a dim view to jokes like that.
Boom, boom. Thank you. Try the veal.
I mean, it is a good question. It is a good topic to bring up. I know, just given the aspect of our town and the fact that, one, we don't have a lot of streetlights, we have a pretty dark town, which I think is advantageous to a lot of the farms and animals and environment in our town. So it is comparable to, I think, to ask about that. So we can start to look into that. I don't know if that's something we could put for a town article for this year yet, but it's something we can start to look into and see if that's something we want to explore more.
Thank you. I would appreciate that very much, and I would, to reference anything, I would reference our neighbors in Stowe. Their town bylaws are fantastic when it comes to light pollution.
Okay.
Thank you.
How do they enforce that with residential?
That is a very good question. I used to teach in Stowe, and it's just hearing from parents that I've heard more than one occasion that they had to take down floodlights, even though they have a large piece of property. The floodlights would click on, whether it be on a motion sensor or whatnot, and there'd be many times where neighbors would complain and go to town hall. And how it's enforced, I have no idea. If someone has to come knock on the door and say those have to come down, or who that person may be. But
Yeah, it might be something we can do a little bit more research too to see exactly how that is enforced, because that's a good question, Mark.
all right, well, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Anyone else?
No.
All right.
Erica, is there anything that we've put off doing in previous years that this would be a good year to bring them up now that it's a light year?
Well, that's a good question. I think a lot of the things that we've sort of put on hold, and I can certainly bring back some of the older lists of articles that we've looked at previously for the board to look at. But I think most of them would require some extensive research and public outreach. I know we talked about, well, several times now, we've gone through the effort of trying to update the zoning the zoning district boundary lines. I don't know if that's something that the board wants to try to entertain again this year, or wait for the master plan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure master plan has anything to do with it.
I would say, I think, so
But
with
yeah,
this
that was the
accessory
argument
apartment-
last year, was to wait for the master plan.
But I think also, Mark, with this accessory apartment bylaw, we're
Yeah.
going to need to do some outreach on this. I don't think, I mean, this is certainly not going to be a straightforward one.
Yeah.
So I think this is a much bigger article that, than it's just showing on paper. I think it's going to be a fair amount of effort to kind of put this together. So I think it's still, it's an important one, but it's going to take a fair amount of effort. Sorry, I didn't want to, before we close, two quick things. One, our next hearing is scheduled for November 11th. I know it's on a holiday. I guess my first question is, can we have it on a holiday? Because I'm nervous about bumping it to the 18th, because that's after the November 15th paving deadline. So I'd actually like to keep it on the 11th. Does anyone have any issues with it? Or two, is it okay that we as a town have it on a holiday?
Technically, I don't think we can hold it on a holiday.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, so what I would suggest is could we shoot for a different day that week? I don't think we necessarily need to meet on Wednesday. Perhaps we meet on, the Tuesday before or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm okay with the 10th. Does that work for other board members?
That's fine for me.
Yeah.
All right, so we just need to let everyone know that it's going to be Tuesday, November 10th. Instead of the 11th.
And that should be fine. I actually haven't posted that meeting yet on the town's website. So when I do, I'll make sure to post it for the 10th, and no hearings have been scheduled. So that should be fine.
I would just let Bob, I was just thinking with Keys Farm, let Bob know
Sure.
our hearing date on the 10th. Hopefully that is, I just want to keep that. I don't want to bump that to the 18th. I want to have this hearing before the 15th. So that way we could potentially hear back from him, and with still some dates to keep going. And then the last thing was, you had actually emailed, yes, perfect, potential dates. And I had Erica bring this up sooner. I know usually we go over these in December. Just with my schedule and with everything being virtual, I'm having a lot more hearings at night for my work. So if I can kind of get these set in stone, I'm trying to work around them as much as possible. So I wanted to see if she could go ahead and do the next 6 months. So did anyone have any questions or concerns with these dates that are proposed? I think January seems straightforward. And February, the February holiday is 15th to the 19th, so that works. And then April. Yeah, so again, that's outside. I'm okay with all these dates. Does anyone else have any questions on these dates or concerns?
I'm fine with it.
Yep, fine with me.
All right.
I'm fine at the
Someone wanna
moment, so.
And obviously, you know, things can come up, but at least I
Yeah.
can put these in my schedule, or we can all put them in our schedule. And then we kind of got them. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve, you know, the planning board dates for January through June 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the planning board dates from January through June of 2021.
Second.
And all those in favor, roll call.
Chair Danielle Spicer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Mike Moore,
Aye.
Peter Driscoll,
Aye.
Mark Sprague,
Aye.
James Barr.
Aye.
Awesome. Pass unanimously. Now we can do a motion to adjourn, I think, right?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Second.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.